Hello, fellow dungeon crawlers. My name is Richard, and welcome to my dungeon. Have you ever wanted to start playing tabletop role playing games, but with so many different versions and types? You're not sure where to start. Or perhaps you're interested in Dungeon Dragons from the 80s, like the Hellfire Club in Stranger Things. In this channel, I'll document my thoughts and experiences to play the various types of dungeon crawling adventures. This could include tabletop role-playing games, board games, and maybe even a video game or two. I have not played a tabletop role-playing game in just under 30 years, so I'm a complete noob again. Please come with me to find the game systems, figures, tools to start campaigning again.
Dungeon Crawlers Level 1.
You might be asking, why am I starting a channel focused on dungeon crawling? I started playing Dungeons & Dragons when I was in the 6th grade in the mid-80s with my family members. We had weekly games for several years. We started with D&D Basic, the Metzer Red Box, the one with the iconic red dragon on the cover. We ran through introductory adventures like Search of the Unknown and Keep on the Borderland. I especially liked the Keep on the Borderland. That module had a large cave network as a dungeon crawl with many overpowered monsters. It was a fun but grueling adventure. The first time I played the Keep, I was playing as a cleric when we encountered the Mad Hermit's Mountain Lion. That was one powerful monster, especially for a first level group. That big cat won initiative on my party and focused on me with his 3 attacks, and that was it. Chainmail, shield, not nearly good enough. That big cat handed me my first Dungeons & Dragons dirt map, but it became a valuable learning lesson on how deadly D&D Basic could be. That was just one powerful monster in the adventure. Inside the cave network were bugbears, ogres, and hordes of lower level monsters, like orcs and goblins. But when my party encountered the Minotaur, we probably should have ran, because that is a deadly monster for a first level party. However, my love of dungeon crawls truly didn't start till the Lost City module. The Lost City is about surviving and adventuring inside a decaying civilization. That adventure actually sparked my imagination and fascination with ancient civilizations that is still with me today. In the Lost City adventure, your party is assigned to a caravan traveling through the desert. A sandstorm separates your party from the rest of the caravan, and you become lost and run out of water when you find the entrance to a stone structure jetting out of the sand. This is really an entrance to a pyramid, which is completely covered in sand. This is the start of a massive dungeon crawl, which includes over 100 rooms. The adventure includes, of course, the pyramid, and there's an inverted pyramid below. But there's a secret passage to the Lost City area, which includes the Lost City, catacombs, and even a cave system. In this adventure, your party is completely cut off from the outside world. So initially, there is no safe space for the adventurers. You cannot simply just walk up to a friendly castle, heal up, and then do some more adventuring. It is up to the players themselves to carve out alliances with these inhabitants. But these inhabitants have also been cut off from the outside world. They've been living underground for so long that they even forgot there is an outside world. They eat mushrooms and drink exotic wines. So now they live in a dreamlike state. They worship a powerful monster called Zargon. The city and its inhabitants really have a sad history. The adventure gives the party ample opportunity to roleplay with the various factions. You can make alliances with this strange and beautifully diverse group. Each faction wants to restore the decaying civilization back to its former glory. Your party can help the civilization create a new golden age. Parties that enjoy role-playing will have a great time interacting with this diverse group. But my party, we didn't play it that way. We spoke to the first group, and talks broke down. so my cleric used his mace to do the negotiating. After that, we became a pack of murder hobos. Think Anakin Skywalker and the Sand People, but a lot less one-sided. We did the basic kick in the door, fight the monster, and loot as much treasure as possible. We did make an alliance with one group though. We needed a place to store our sweet, sweet loot. My party played a few adventures, but we switched to Advanced Dungeons & Dragons. Speaking for myself, I thought of basic D&D, at least at that time, as the starter set. I felt that AD&D was a much more adult and cooler version of Dungeons & Dragons. I really didn't understand the difference between AD&D and basic at that time. In middle school, I was with my older brother when he bought the AD&D Monster Manual 2. We drove to our local Walden's bookstore in search of the role-playing game section. At least in my experience, the tabletop role-playing game section seemed to be in the farthest corner of the store. But we found the section, and he pulled out the book from the stacks and showed it to me, and I knew it was something special. The book was hardcover and not the soft I was familiar with. Also, the cover art was much more detailed. I remember there was a giant fighting a fighter, and the giant was crazy yoked out and had these huge shoulder muscles, and the fighter only came up to the giant's shin. I was immediately impressed. At the same time, I was in a Dungeons & Dragons group in the middle school. We only played basic D&D during our lunch breaks and after school. We played on the gym patio with metal minis and multiple graph paper sheets taped together. Remember, this was during the Satanic Panic, and we were in plain view playing a role-playing game with minis and dice. After high school, I continued to play, but I switched to other tabletop role-playing games like Robotech by Palladium Games and Star Wars by West End Games. For me, I think video games filled in for tabletop role-playing games. In high school, I was really into early consoles, but I remember playing the original Phantasy Star several years after it was released. I didn't have a Master System, but I had a Game Gear and a Master System converter. The Game Gear had a 3-inch screen, so reading the menus could be quite problematic, but I did complete the full adventure. I remember I put my D&D mapping skills to good use though. I would graph out the 3D dungeons, and when I ended the adventure, I had quite a lot of custom maps. I think it became easier for me to play a console game than it was to try to schedule a tabletop role-playing game session. So again, you might be asking, why am I starting a channel focused on dungeon crawling? Well, sorry dungeon crawlers, you've probably heard this before, but I'm another old-school tabletop role-playing game player whose interest was rekindled due to Stranger Things. When Stranger Things first came out, I had no idea the story was interrelated with Dungeons & Dragons. When I watched the beginning episode, I knew nothing about the show, except it was set in the 80s. But I was amazed on how Dungeons & Dragons was incorporated into the show. In the beginning episode, there was the D&D adventure scene. Watching this scene brought back memories of me playing tabletop role-playing games. The actors were also middle school students set in a time period only a few years before I started playing. There were many elements that I could relate to, but best of all, the actors were really enjoying the game. After this episode, I started thinking more about Dungeons & Dragons. So when Stranger Things Season 4 came out, I definitely had a growing interest in D&D. But I was absolutely blown away by the D&D scene. Like they had an official AD&D Dungeon Master screen with Monster Manual pages clipped to it. In this scene, it was an epic ending to a campaign. Eddie, their Dungeon Master, was incredible. He was dramatic and concise. He could be antagonistic, but he ultimately cheered for the group when they succeeded in defeating BECMI. They showed so much emotion and joy in the adventure. I could see myself playing alongside them. It was at that time that I knew I wanted to recreate that feeling for myself and for others. That's when I started to buy the D&D books you see behind me. And please don't come for me in the comments, because I'm part of the reason why D&D books have skyrocketed in price recently. Thank you for watching this video up till now. Please let me know in the comments what you liked, and maybe even what you didn't like. Please like this video if you enjoyed its content. Remember, pity likes are okay, because I'm still new to adventuring. And see everybody on the next dungeon crawl. Thank you for watching, and please click over here to be taken to the next adventure.
Dungeon Crawlers Level 1.